or maybe even start your own game studio, you need to understand the ways in which game studios make money and generally the business of games. Things have changed quite a bit for games is absolutely insane out there. So even if you do make a premium game, you build a premium game, you put all that money into it, there's a chance that you may not be able to recover it. What's up, people? Welcome back to my channel, and in this video I'm going to be talking about a very important and interesting topic in the game industry, and that is how game studios make money, aka the business of games. Not a lot of people understand this, and if you want to join a company, if you want to join the game industry, get a job, or maybe even start your own game studio, you need to understand the ways in which game studios make money and generally the business of games, right? So I'm going to be talking about big studios, small studios. I'm talking about the different kind of platforms, different kind of monetization strategies, and also the different ways in which a studio can actually be viable. Because remember, at the end of the day, if you're making games, sure, you're making them a passion, you want to make beautiful things, you want to put your mark out in the world, but do remember that you need to make money. Video games need to make money. Game studios need to make money. And that's what we're going to be exploring in this video. Now, first up, let's talk about the older model of making games and how those games make money. So basically, imagine you are person A, you have a game idea, you're saying, you know what, I want to build this game. This game is going to be awesome. It's going to be a PC game. It's going to be a shooter. It's going to be like a horror, Metroidvania, whatever. You come up with a game idea. It's going to be a game. It's going to have 3, 4, 5, 6 hours of content, and say, okay, I'm going to make this game. So you go to a studio, you put together a team, and you get an idea, you put down a document, you create some plans, you get your team together, and you start building this game. And this game, it takes time. Obviously, it takes 1, 2, 3 years to build, depending on the size. And then the game comes out, and you say you're going to release it on PC. You manage to get it on the Xbox, PlayStation, whatever, and then you release this game. So you, at this point, you've already invested a lot of money, and the game is not even out. Right now, you do this, and then you release the game, and you're hoping that at least you're going to be making money from this game because you've invested all this money. Say suppose you invested 3 crores into this game, you would at least need to make 5, 6 crores from this game to actually recover your money and actually make some money on this game. So this is the old style of premium games which were made and are still made by a lot of game studios, right? So this is a premium game. When it comes to the player, you pay first and then you get the game later, right? Now, things have changed quite a bit in the last 10, 20 years, because remember in 2008, 2007, 2008, this is when I was actually joining the game industry. I was in Vancouver Film School. Things were very, very different that time, just before that, because there were basically very few game engines. Unity started around 2008. It was basically Unreal, a few other engines, which were very expensive to use. You had to pay fees to use these engines, right? And it was very difficult to make games then, which also meant that the competition was not that great. There were not that many games. There were no mobile games at that time, and games which were there on Xbox or PlayStation box, the competition was far, far, far lower. But somewhere around late 2008, 2009, an absolute revolution happened. In fact, several revolutions happened. The first revolution was Unity. Unity was a really democratic game engine that came out, and then all of a sudden it was free. It was, you could have the documentation, you could join a community, you could get tutorials, you could learn how to build it, and people started making games. Everyone started making games, right? You could put your game on mobile, right? And the other thing that happened was the iPhone. Mobile games started, and that was an absolute revolution, for better or worse. So everything changed in those few years. And then what happened was that the number of games out there increased exponentially, right? Now there are so many games. There are literally thousands of games being released every single day on all different platforms. The competition for games is absolutely insane out there. So even if you do make a premium game, you build a premium game, you put all that money into it, there's a chance that you may not be able to recover your money. And a lot of games, a lot of studios do not make money because they assume that they're going to sell so many copies at so much cost. And then, of course, firstly, the problem is that they may not even finish the game. Games are not easy to finish. You have a big game, you need to finish the game first, and after that, you need to actually sell that game. So as I say, I've actually made a meme in which, as you can see right now on the screen, the first problem you have is that you have to actually finish your game, which is pretty hard. The second thing is you have to find players for your game, and then comes the bigger problem, which of course is you actually have to make money from your game, which is again really, really hard. So what happened is that instead of having this model of putting all this money into this game, especially because of all the competition out there, instead of just putting money into a game and building one game which starts like 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, it's a big financial risk, because remember, somebody has to pay for it, right? So if there's an investor who's investing in the game or investing in the studio, or even a founder is putting their own money, it's actually safer to put your money into a fixed deposit and earn like 3, 4, 5% interest rather than put it into a game, because you don't know, you could lose all your money. Which is why recently things have changed. Not recently, 5, 10, 15 years ago, things changed and went over to free-to-play games. So this is the comparatively new monetization model in which, and this is mostly right now on mobile. If you may have noticed, the mobile game industry has really grown. Mobile games are more than 50% of the revenue worldwide right now in the game industry. So mobile games are really huge, and a large percentage of mobile games are actually free-to-play games. What companies actually do is that they create a game which they put on mobile platforms such as iOS or Android, and the content basically in the beginning is free. And of course, they market this game, they place ads, they do run marketing campaigns, they acquire player for these games, and then they see if this game is doing well. You can see if games are doing well without spending too much. So rather than spending 3, 4, 5 years on a game, they just put out game out there in 6 months, 7 months, and they'll put analytics inside the game to detect how the game is doing. They'll market the game, they'll spend a few $100,000, they'll get some players, and they see if the game is monetizing. What do I mean by the game is monetizing? It means that usually in free-to-play games, if the game has 100 players, for example, only 3 to 5% maximum of the players will actually pay. They will make purchases, etc. If the studio sees that this game is out there, they do a soft launch, they have a little bit of monetization, they have a decent amount of monetization. If they think that, okay, this is a game which can actually make money, then they will continue to work on it. If they find out that this is not working out, they will make changes to it, or sometimes even cancel the game, right? So basic fundamental design of the game is completely different. I know a lot of you complain about free-to-play games, etc., but you have to understand the business scenario from where free-to-play games have come, and they are there to stay, right? So a free-to-play game lowers the risk for the game studio in a very high competition environment. Now, even PUBG, Free Fire, these are all free games. A lot of you play these games. Candy Crush is a free game. So you play and you enjoy the game, and after some time, the game design is such that the game starts to ask you to spend some money. Now, also remember that you don't have to spend money for the game to make money. There's also something called ads. Ads are, of course, very irritating. No one likes ads. But what the games do is that they place ads, they place rewarded ads, they place interstitial ads, they place normal ads for people who play free games. And a certain amount of money is earned, like a very small amount, a few cents is earned by each game whenever someone watches that ad. Now, remember, this is a function of country also. Comparatively, in India, if a company releases a game with ads, you don't make that much money. In the US, for example, the game would make a lot more money. And also it depends upon the platform. iOS generally has a higher return on ad watch, and Android is considerably lower. So if you're making a game, you're releasing it on Android or iOS, the earning from these two platforms could also be different, right? So this is the dominant, I would say, monetization model these days, which is getting more and more. And in fact, even PC games, even games on Steam are free to play. They're following the same model, and some of them following them with a lot of success, right? In free-to-play, there are a lot of challenges, because if 100 players or 1,000 players are downloading your game, only a very small percentage of them are going to actually monetize. And this is very tricky, because if you show them too many ads, they're not going to like it. If you push monetization too hard, they're not going to like it. If you don't push monetization hard enough, your game is not going to earn money, right? So it is also not an easy situation to be in to release a free-to-play game. Free-to-play games are actually a complete science, which depend on a big way on data. Data analytics in the game industry has actually come up in a very big way because of mobile games, because a mobile game will actually employ a lot of these analytics in the game. So whenever you download a free game and you start playing it, it's tracking everything you're doing, which button you're pressing, where you're going, how long your session is, where you quit, what you did, which screens you went into, which screens you didn't go into. Every single action of the player is being tracked by the analytics in the mobile game. There are people who are data people who actually sit down and analyze all this stuff, and then let us, the designers and the producers of the game, know what's working and what's not working. Now, there's also something which is called a subscription model. So you must have seen Xbox and Game Pass and PlayStation as well. These platforms actually have a subscription, which is something like Netflix. You pay a fixed amount per month, and they give you all these games that you can play as part of your subscription. Next up, let's talk about DLCs, which is download downloadable content, which you probably heard of. So downloadable content and expansion packs are new content for an existing game that prolongs its lifespan and keep players interested. Expansion packs, being a larger type of DLC, add new mechanics, stories, or features. For example, The Witcher 3, Blood and Wine, and Destiny 2's expansions have really successfully extended their games' lifespans, right? The pros, of course, are that it extends the revenue opportunities post-launch, it keeps player engaged and enhances free play value, but also there is a possibility of a backlash, as we can see. It can create a backlash if players feel core content is held back to be sold later. There is also something called episodic content. So it's possible that a game, which could be a premium game, may release a certain amount of content and actually be part of an anthology, and then right after that we have maybe 1 or 2 hours of gameplay and then release a couple of hours of gameplay as well, to actually increase the tail of the game and improve the monetization of the game. Next up, let's talk about advertisements and sponsorships. Browser-based and particularly mobile games actually quite typically include advertisements as a main revenue stream. Okay, now let's talk about sponsorships. There are a lot of games which actually have in-game content which is sponsored by users. So in fact, there are some cricket games in India which launched a few days ago which actually had content from liquor manufacturers and also placement of actual sponsored objects, placement of merchandise in the game that is sponsored by the players. That's another very effective way, but it's a little bit of a niche, but that's also a way in which game studios can actually make money. Right, so now that we talked about the different kinds of monetization strategies, let's talk about how studios basically make money. The most important thing for a game studio is to understand the target audience, understand what they like, what they do not like, understand how to monetize, what kind of platforms they play on, and get a complete understanding of how to monetize that market. Now, smaller mobile game studios cannot afford to have different target markets, so they focus on a specific target market. Larger studios, of course, such as Electronic Arts, for example, Electronic Arts has mobile games, they have console games, they have all kinds of games on different platforms and different target audiences. So the bigger the studio, the bigger the budget you have, the more people you have, you can actually focus on different target markets, different audiences. But if you're starting up a small studio, then it is very much advisable to focus and learn about the monetization and requirements of your particular target market, right? My advice to people who are starting their own game studios and who are looking to get into games, the business of games, is to start small. Focus on the person. Do not focus on the game. A lot of people make the mistake of saying, you know what, we're going to make one particular kind of game because we like playing that kind of game. It's whether it's big or it's small, it's probably going to be a big game. It's going to take us 3 to 4 years to make our first game and release it. I would not advise that strategy. Your business strategy should be dictated by what you can do and not what you want to do in terms of video games. So it's good to be ambitious, but I don't think it's a good idea for a game studio to get into a really, really big market, a really, really difficult platform such as console, straight off the bat. It's much better to start with small PC games or mobile games, understand the target market, understand the monetization, and then slowly build one game, learn from it, build another game, make the monetization better, make the revenue better, and slowly take that part of building a game studio, right? So next up is also live services. What exactly are live services? Live services are basically for mobile games, mostly for mobile games or free-to-play games that the game releases, and up to a certain point, the game's life can be extended by events, adding new content, etc. to the game. This is something that is really effectively done by Clash of Clans and so many games like that in mobile free-to-play space. The game has been out for many years, but it still has a very vibrant community, which of course brings me to the community. Now, a really big part of a game studio's business strategy is the community, right? Because these are the people who are buying your games, downloading your game, playing your games, and will be doing so in the future. So a really big part of business is to grow a community and to nurture a community, right? People spend a lot of money and a lot of effort. There are complete departments in game studios which are dedicated to their communities. All right, so that was my brief video on the business of games. If there's anything I left out, do let me know. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys around.